Welcome to the Art of Happiness. My name is Tam, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Erin Shimone.
Hi.
You're so calm with
I
your
never know
eyes.
what to say back to you.
So today's topic, we're going to talk about is content creation when you're doing your hobby, killing the joy of hobbies. Do you like how I just went right into the title?
I mean, I think
took all the small talk out.
it's great. You don't even have to think of anything later. No, I think it's perfect because, and I think we can both speak like a lot on this because we have done all of the.
Well, we're the generation that like just took off with social media, right?
Right.
Like, if you brushed your teeth and didn't document it, did it even count?
Right.
Did you brush your teeth today?
Right. Totally.
But I mean, let's talk about it, right? Because like, I think part of the challenges that our generation faces with perfectionism, I think could be like, what's the word I'm looking for? Put together, combined with the rise of social media, right? Because
yes, I definitely think that. I think I know what you're saying. Like, there's an increased level of perfectionism because of social media. Is that what you mean? Yeah, and also anxiety and depression and all these things because comparison culture is not great for our psyche.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Psyche. Yeah.
So, like, we talk about because, like, if you think about it, like, for instance, a lot of the stuff that we follow on our socials is hobby content, right? Which there's some positives and some negatives that go along with it,
Definitely.
right? Like, for me, as I'm somebody who is right now trying all the hobbies I can try, right? Social media is really good for me for looking for new hobbies.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, when I was, prior to us having this podcast, trying to figure out a hobby to try, I would just Google, and Google would give me 3 things. You know, it'd be like crochet, sewing, and baking. I'm like, well, I don't want any of those.
Yeah.
Or I've already tried these, and I didn't enjoy them, which is half true. And so social media, especially because the algorithm is there, it kind of, if you like scroll enough, it'll find those ways to get those hobby things in front of you. And it gives you some inspiration, right?
Yeah.
That's
and like,
great.
It is so impressive. Just want to sidebar it, like what cool things people are doing out there. Right?
Oh my God.
It is incredible. But then it also, the downside of that is can make you feel kind of crappy when you start out new hobbies, right?
Exactly. So let's talk about that, right? Because like, let's just start with my favorite of your hobbies that failed miserably. Love you. A sourdough.
Yes. I mean, it's a perfect example because it was like kind of the first hobby I started on this podcast that I intentionally was trying. It was something I had been wanting to do anyway. But if you start looking at sourdough on Instagram, I mean, you're going to You're going to see all these beautiful sourdough bread, perfectly brown. They've even got designs in them.
Color.
Like, color.
Have you seen some of them have color?
Flavors, all the things. So cool what some people can
just
do out
beautiful
there. And so my expectations were that 1, it wouldn't be difficult, and 2, like mine would come
Yours
out
would just be as colorful and
that
beautiful.
it would at least come out like brown and looking like bread, And
it didn't.
It did not at all.
Spoiler.
And I was not in a good headspace at the time. I felt like I was really feeling that perfectionism, and it just like really made me not want to keep doing it, and
it shut you down pretty hard.
It did.
Like I remember you feeling some type of way.
It gave me anxiety.
Did it really?
Kind of like, because when you do sourdough, there's like prep work to get the dough ready, and it kind of is a process. And I remember feeling like, oh, I don't want to start that process because it's like kind of a whole day thing, and you have to plan out your steps. And it was just felt like, I was like, after the first one didn't come out, and I couldn't even take a photo. I should have taken a photo of it. Looking back, I wish I would have, because then it could have shown my failures.
Right.
But at the time, I was like, I don't want to show this because it looks so bad. And it was just kind of defeating, and I didn't want to keep going. I think I tried a few times, and then I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to give up. It's not for me. It's like causing me too much stress.
Right. But let's talk about the fact that so far, the only thing that you have said that went bad with it is how it looked.
That's true. I think it was, and it didn't really turn out that great, and that was fine.
It didn't taste good?
I guess it tasted good, but it was kind of like dense, and I don't know. I don't think it turned out the way it should have. But I do think it was the comparison of, in my brain, what it should look like, what it should be like. I didn't want to post on socials, like all those things that added to me not wanting to keep going.
Well, and I think so. Okay, so like I said, I pointed out that the one thing that you keep leaning on is how it looked, right? It wasn't aesthetically pleasing. But the interesting part is it's not, you're hinting at it wasn't aesthetically pleasing enough for the socials. Right. And I think that's because that's, just what we're all used to seeing, right? right?
Yeah.
Is you open up your phone and you're seeing all these people's successes, and it's all of this beautifully crafted stuff.
Yeah.
But what we're not seeing is all of the first attempts and
Totally.
the failures,
Yes,
right? I
absolutely.
think we're starting to see more of that on there because I
Yeah.
think there is a rising bubble of fighting perfectionism, right? And fighting that fakeness that you can find on socials.
Yeah, and I think now that we've been through this process too, we're able to better like have a mental handle on that and understand that like what we're seeing is the end product, not the beginning, right?
Yes.
And so mentally, like emotionally, we're able to handle that better. But it can be really stunting to your hobby journey, I think, if
Right.
that's all you're looking at.
I agree.
Yeah.
So then let's talk about that. So when you were actually going through the motions of sourdough, now remember, audience, that she hated this. So try not to make it sound so
Right. I mean, some people love it, I know.
But like when you were trying it, was there any amount of joy that you found for it just simply for the fact of you trying something new? Or do you think even when you were trying it, were you still thinking this isn't good enough for the socials, or this isn't good enough from what I'm seeing on socials?
I think that I felt like failure, and I just felt like it wasn't good enough in general. Like, I don't remember saying, I think that it was just not good enough, and that was just because I had too high of expectations, you know? I do remember appreciating that I learned some things about baking.
Oh, good.
And, you know, that sort of thing, like that on a personal level. But, but I don't feel that way anymore, you know, through all the failures we've had with things. Like, I think if I did it again, it'd be interesting to try it again and with my current headspace and see if, like, I bet the less not being anxious about it will probably have a better result, you know?
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see.
I agree, because I feel like one of the things that you pointed out in the beginning phases of that was your perfectionism really came through on there, because baking is a very precise thing. Not that I really know. I'm just
That's what people tell us.
Tell me. But in addition, your children tried to be a little helpful in it, and it made a mess.
Yes,
and
that's true.
mess is not perfectionism.
That's true.
And that was something that you also struggled with in the beginning with that.
That's true.
So that was a lot of personal growth on that. But okay, so that just highlights a personal level of like content creation, right? And
Correct.
hobbying. So we talk about how like there's like this blur between like hobby and hustle, which is also
Definitely. That's very prevalent, right?
like in that social media content piece, right? So like you start a hobby, you really like your hobby, you post it on the socials. Well, then sometimes people are kind of interested in that and maybe want to buy it from you, right?
Yep.
So then it turns into this realm of, should I now turn this into a job?
Yeah.
Which can be alluring to millennial women specifically.
Right.
For various reasons. One, just the financial gain that you appreciate from that, right? Two, like the allure of being potentially creating your own business out of something that right now you enjoy.
Right.
And having potentially that idea of freedom in your schedule, right? And breaking from that typical traditional 9 to 5.
I think too, just getting the positive feedback, like that gives you that dopamine. You're like, people like this. Why don't I do more of it, right?
But then what do you do when it turns into a full-blown side hustle, right?
Yeah.
How do you make sure that you still have joy in the hobby? Do you lose the joy? Do you keep the joy? I think it could go both ways, right? And I think we've seen that in our season 1. There were some folks that they did try their hobby. They did take it into a hustle-type culture and found that it totally burned them out on their hobby, and they didn't want to do it anymore because they were focused more on the increased level of production and the perfection of it when it came out, because you've got to meet customer demands, right? Like if it's not perfect, your customer's going to return it. Bad reviews, it's bad for your company, right? But then there were others who found that truly, like they've never worked a day in their life again since, because they get to do their hobby as their job for the rest of their lives, right? So there's two realms that like you can kind of go into, that putting that content of your hobby can like throw you into, right?
Yeah.
And I would say that the best piece of advice that we've seemed to gathered from those that we've interviewed previously and hope to interview going forward is making sure that you focus on the internal, like intrinsic joy
For sure.
things, right? Like if you break off intrinsic versus extrinsic, right? Make sure that when you're doing your hobby, you're keeping it intrinsically.
Yeah.
Right? Would you agree?
I agree. No, I think that's a good piece of advice. It's kind of like really just continuing to check in with yourself and making sure that it doesn't become a job, because then you're going to lose all your joy from it. Like,
Yeah. And I do see the appeal in extra, like getting that outside validation. Like I still want that outside
absolutely.
validation,
Everybody
right?
does,
like
right?
we're not saying that you can't have that and that's a bad thing. I think it's still a good thing. Like I still like, if I, do my hair that day, I do kind of want, my husband to notice and say hi, right? Like, but I think it's just making sure that you don't put that as the sole reason that you do your hobby, because that's not going to bring joy to you. Right. You're going to lose that little piece.
Yeah. One person that we interview that comes to mind is my sister-in-law, Kateri.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She's a good one.
She's such so she is so talented with, like, I feel like she could have 100 businesses because she is so artistic. And she's done like children's books. She's like this fantastic painter. And she makes dog clothes for her own dogs. And I've always been so impressed by her. She does have a small Etsy store for making cat toys, and it has taken off, and she like continues to do that. But I do think that has become a little bit of a chore.
Has it?
But I think she could do so many other things, and I've always admired her, and I don't know if it's intentional or not. I have to ask her, but like she's not turned anything else into businesses, and I think it's probably intentional to keep, because she just truly enjoys her art and doing art, and I think that's such a cool thing. She's found balance. Like she has one thing she's doing as a business, but then she kept everything else for herself, and she'll occasionally post stuff on socials, but it's not like up in the forefront of everything, So, and I think that just brings her a lot of joy.
Yeah.
So just finding balance.
It is finding balance. And I think it's, remembering that it's really important to have things that are just for you.
Yeah.
There was an article that I was reading. Gosh, I wish I could remember the name of it. It was from BBC. I'll try to find that and send it to you. But it was talking about how trying to put hobbies, like a hobby space or that self-care space, into almost like a ritualistic type of space, where it's just for you. Like singing a song before, or listening to music before you start recording a podcast, or like just trying to have like a little song that you're learning like on a guitar that just kind of just practice for yourself, that literally you don't provide for anyone else or do for anyone else. It's just for you.
Right.
And how like doing that repeatedly, like scheduling time for yourself every week, can reduce anxiety, reduce stress, and can really help ground you in your current mindset and in your current space, which can really benefit you as,
Yeah, I feel like doing hobbies and self-care are the equivalent of eating a healthy diet and exercising for yourself, like for your body.
Yes.
Like in some ways, it's like it doesn't need to be it shouldn't be for anybody else but yourself in a lot of ways. And you'll see the ripple effects in so many ways in your life. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the moral of the story is not to feel that you can't have that hobby content, because obviously that's something that we have to be very mindful of, because
definitely.
We have this podcast that like we do record some of the hobby content. Actually, let's talk about this for a second, because this was something that was weighing on me when I first started studying the subject, because here I am, I'm a podcaster, and I am a hobby content podcaster, right? This podcast is content, right? And part of helping, spread the word of our community is I unfortunately do have, I don't want to say unfortunately, I guess I do have to utilize the socials in order to do so, right? So I, try to record as much as I can, but I was noticing towards the end of season 1 that when I would do hobby content, the thing that usually prevented me from starting to do a hobby was setting up, like, to make sure I had good lighting, to make sure that I actually was recording the stuff that I was doing. And that alone would be enough to stop me from doing that hobby and would make me switch to a different hobby.
Oh,
like, depending on how much of a lighting concept I needed to have.
Yeah.
Which is so counterproductive.
Right. How ironic.
Right now, right? And it was really frustrating. And so when I was reading and studying this particular subject that we were talking about, I was like, that's my problem. Like, I got caught in that hobby content, like, destruction. I'll say, I don't want to say destruction. Maybe that's not quite the word. Cycle.
Yeah.
I'll say cycle. it's so easy to be like, oh, I need to have this out there with and not even realizing that it's like sucking the joy out of the hobby itself.
Yeah.
Like I was totally a victim.
Right.
Even in season 1.
How like welcome to the Matrix.
Exactly, right? So I feel like during our break, whenever I would try to do hobby time, I was trying not to focus so much on content in it, right? Because I mean, what I tried to do is not every time.
Yeah.
So I would do like once every couple of weeks is when I would get the content out and try to record it, right? Because I feel like that kind of made me feel like I was gaining control again, without totally being counterproductive to our podcast, right? But it is a challenging medium to find for somebody like us or and we're not the only type of people out there. There are a lot of people who like that they actually have like the hustle, you know, on the social medias and are making money from this. This is some of their livelihood, right?
Right.
So I would definitely recommend checking in with yourself, being in tune with where the joy is and when you stop. If you're finding that you're not doing hobby time specifically because of the lighting,
then you're probably
that's when you're in the spot. That's your red flag.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. You know, if it just comes back to like, are you doing it for the right reasons? Are you doing it for you? Does it bring you joy or are you doing it for other people, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a fine line there for sure. And you just have to really be aware of that and not let yourself get sucked into that because the joy of hobbies is truly in the process and like what it does for you, right?
I would agree.
Yeah.
There it is.
Okay.
That's how I feel about it.
So we would like to challenge all of our listeners this week to do a little mini challenge and do a hobby or try something new and don't post about it and don't share it. And obviously we won't know if you did or didn't, but
we won't know. We're just going to take your word for it.
But we hope that you do because it's kind of freeing to just do something just for yourself.
It really is because I think it takes away that like when you have the fail, you can really just laugh about it as opposed to being so disappointed because it wasn't socials worthy, right? Like not everything you do has to be socials worthy. And actually there's a lot of beauty in failure. And what I think is even more beautiful about it is sometimes when you just get to fail by yourself. Yeah. Because then you create this, when you practice failing by yourself, it makes you feel a little bit more comfortable about failing out in the world because
100%.
You've created a safe space within yourself for that failure that takes away that fear of failing in front of others. And I think that's really important. And I think that's a really good key way to break perfectionism.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tam.
Well, you know, sometimes I've got these little tidbits.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed this topic today. And join us next time on The Art of Hobbiness.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to The Art of Hobbiness. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review. And for more Aaron and TM fun, be sure to follow us on all socials for behind-the-scenes footage on our journey to find hobbiness.